So,
Okay.
all right. So next up is a section talking about the adjunct rights movement. So from what we read we talked about it in a previous chapter, but adjuncts kind of get a raw deal because of how little they get paid. Like some of them make like 30,000 a year. And of course the criticism is, well, we're teaching, we're doing all this work, we have all this student debt. Why are we making such little money? Why are there these full professors getting paid way more? So this part actually surprised me a little bit. This was sort of like the idea about grade inflation. There were some things in here that I didn't know, which was good because it shows like, okay, I have my own biases, but they're challenging these as well. So adjuncts have actually been compared to indentured servants and sweatshop workers. The adjuncts rights movement appeared in the U.S. Yeah, I know. And demanding better pay, job benefits, job security, larger role in the administration, etc. And adjuncts, of course, again, elephant in the brain, they're likely sincere, but their claims don't hold up to scrutiny. So papers have been claiming that universities have been replacing full-time professors with adjuncts in order to save money. Adjunctification, they call it. I like that word. But it turns out it's not true. So the ratio of adjuncts has increased over the past 40 years. That's true. So in terms, this is the total ratios of staff just in general. They said, according to the Department of Education in 1970, the ratio of students to all full-time faculty was 23.2 to 1. As of 2013, this is actually the most recent data, it's 23.7 to 1. So the ratio of faculty, the ratio of students to faculty hasn't changed that much. Now, the number of adjuncts as a percentage has increased a lot, but here's the thing. Adjuncts are being added to supplement full-time faculty, not to replace them. So, for example, in my experience in a kitchen, you're going to hire more line cooks if you get busier. You're not going to hire more sous chefs and another executive chef because it's like, why pay the salary? Why give them responsibility? You're hiring workers to supplement who's already there. Or as a front of the house manager, same thing. Like you may hire a few new servers or something, but you're not going to hire another sommelier or another manager. There's a point where it's not worth paying that higher salary if there's no increased output. But if you just need people to teach more students, you're just going to hire adjuncts because they're cheaper and you don't need them to do research and all the other things. So here it talks about, are adjuncts underpaid? Well, so adjuncts often, don't have PhDs, and comparing them to an endowed chair and full professor is misleading. It's like comparing someone in the minor leagues to an all-star MLB pitcher. Different roles, different pressures, different level of responsibility. They're not going to get paid the same. So one reason, again, is adjuncts are paid to teach. That's it. They don't have to do that much else. They said even the preparation expectations for their classes are low, since they often teach classes like intro composition or the various 101 classes. So it's often simpler curricula. A lot of it's already devised for them. So there's a lot less preparation, whereas the more advanced in-depth things, they have to really get in depth, especially with PhD students. So by contrast, full-time faculty have to do committee work, departmental meetings, student advising, applications review, and various other university functions. They also have to referee journals, grant proposals, do book manuscripts, present at scholarly meetings, and often deliver public lectures or do radio and TV appearances. Tenure track faculty are expected to produce scholarly research, and even sometimes non-tenure track faculty are expected to produce at least some research as well. Adjuncts are hired to teach, and that's just it. Whereas full-time faculty have to teach and do all those other things. So adjuncts also work fewer hours when you compare their duties to their full-time counterparts. They said, as far as the authors can tell, adjuncts work about 75% of the full-time that the other professors do. So again, same thing. It's like a sous chef will make a bit more money, but more responsibilities, that they're going to work more hours, whereas the cooks will get cut sooner. Whereas like there are cases where sous chefs, they'll cut staff and then the sous chefs will just stay and work the station, but the sous chefs get paid the same regardless. So it's a similar sort of story here. And in conclusion, adjuncts do make less money than full-time professors, but you also have to factor in the fewer duties and less responsibilities. So are they underpaid? It's kind of debatable. And it's like, this also gets into the whole way college is funded, the distortion of the price mechanism, where it's not like you go and pay them directly and leave. It's all these third-party payments and how much goes to them, how much goes to other things, and that adds to matters too. So are they underpaid? It's debatable, but you have to factor in what I just said with the way, combined with the way college is financed. So any thoughts or comments?
I can imagine an adjunctification of the education system, specifically in the United States of America, the higher education system, even K through 12. I think this can happen with these pods and those kind of things. You have that kind of system of people being more open to that. With that pod idea, where it's some students collect in a certain area and they learn from a certain person a certain thing, you can have that kind of situation where now people get secondary jobs that kind of way. Maybe not secondary job, but you get some kind of certification that you are able to be an adjunct in this kind of educational system, so you can go and teach in pods. So now you have this kind of situation where people are working from home, so it's not necessarily full on 9 to 5s Monday through Wednesday. You have people who say, okay, we need you to put in 4 days a week at our office. And then for those 4 days a week, it should be 10 hours a day. So you get to pick when you have those 4 days a week, when you have those 10 hours a day. And on the off days, you can go be an adjunct at a local pod, a pod that's by your place. Or these are ways that I think these systems themselves are not necessarily negative. And this is one thing we've mentioned in previous ones, where I think part of the things that Stephen and I would agree on is we're looking at the system that is also quite mutated. This isn't a market-facing system. This is a system that has been mutated by the state interference and the state involvement, and it's been irradiated by that, and it's a monster to serve the state when the state itself doesn't serve the people. It serves its own existence, its own organism. So some of these very good and practical ideas that might have began as very good and practical ideas have been negatively affected by that whole environment that it's in. It's just like taking steroids or being on some kind of drug where it's going to change the actual nature of that being. So I think some of these things, don't just throw out the adjunct thing, but they could be some positive in there, because just in general, as question to, I guess you could feel the question, but just question in general. Before you heard what we've talked about in the last two sections, what Stephen has told us, did you consider the system of tenure to be moral? It's ethical. I think it's ethical because it follows the laws and the rules that are set in those departments. But as I mentioned, I think those rules are mutated due to the nature of the state's involvement. But do you consider them moral before you heard this information? And has that information changed your estimation of what it means to pursue tenure? What the people who are in tenure, are they moral in wanting to continue that system? Thank you for listening. This has been a clip from an actual longer recording that I'll try to leave a link to on the screen or somewhere around here where you're listening to this.
Presents. 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 Presents.
Peasants.
Okay. Okay.